Kearney, known as the Incubator Doctor, travelled the world's fairs across the world with his freak show circus type attraction of incubator babies boasting real, live human babies on display. This received worldwide attention and press coverage. Now, where was this parasite getting his constant supply of live babies from? My mum loves me with every fibre of her soul, and I was born weighing 10 pounds and looked like a potato. She couldn't even have a cup of tea without me drinking it. So what mother would give over their new or premature baby to a sack of shit like this during a time frame when every country's population had been severely reduced and begging for people to populate them cities? Were these mothers selling their unwanted babies, or were these babies motherless and being created unnaturally? Another topic on this subject, known as the asylums. Hundreds, if not thousands, of these old world buildings were dedicated to being so-called asylums, running between the 17 and the 1800s. The narrative may say that these were lunatic asylums, but do you actually think the hardy, tough survivors of this time, after everything they've been through during the past reset, would care enough about people with mental disorders and supposedly build thousands of stone palaces to help the supposed mentally ill? Bear in mind, these aren't the snowflakes that surround us today. These survivors had grit. The narrative will tell us that these lunatic asylums were more about containing the patients like prisoners rather than treating them. That these prisoners were abused, tortured and raped. So why supposedly build, more like dedicate, these massive amazing palaces to just use them as a prison and abuse the inmates? It makes no sense, right? These were clearly not lunatic asylums, nor were they built in their AI-faked history timeline. All of these structures are wood-flooded. Every single supposed asylum that I've looked at. These asylums were either a temporary housing for people immigrating to places like America, possibly housing for children coming in, or even possibly breeding facilities. Of the most bizarre and disturbing topics of this repopulation subject are the mass amounts of symbolic posters and postcards implicating growing and selling babies during the 1890s and 1920s. These are not cute vintage art. France has hundreds of great examples of these, but as you can see, they were posted all over the world, including America. You'll see the word à vendre, and this means for sale. As this one says on the back, dated 1907, sent to the US. Dear Elle, don't you think they are very pretty on the other side? If so, hurry up and order one before they get sold. Love from Aggie. This one actually has the children's names written on the individual toddlers. And if we look on the back, the same handwriting. It doesn't sound like a joke, does it? Children were being sold worldwide. And you might think, why would you advertise them like this? Would you rather choose your GMO baby by this picture or something more realistic? A part of our recent history that the mainstream narrative doesn't want you knowing about, as the chances are you may be a descendant of one of these GMO non-player characters.
In the 1900s, my dad was an incubator baby in Coney Island. He was on display. They had just invented the incubator. He was.
You could literally tell me anything, I'd believe it.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, what was your great-grandparents' names? Or their parents' names? Probably blank, right? These now called catacombs are under every ancient and old world cathedral and church worldwide. More well known in Paris, but the size of France's catacombs only validates the mass death there. All bones dated during the Little Ice Age. Coincidence, right? After the past reset, these remains were lined in old world tunnels originally built to feed the city's water supplies. Presented in a symbolic, demonic, disrespectful manner, most known catacombs, only small sections are permitted to the public, but they admit to them having hundreds of miles that are restricted. People actually pay to see the bones of the massacred ones. Rows of dead children, and they find this fascinating. something I can only explain as trophies of the cult. And it won't be a coincidence that they're under every old world power station, nor why they surround these so-called churches with graves of rotting bodies of the dead. Graves that only date after the last reset. That's all I've got to say on this disgraceful subject. Because the cult's AI knows what I am and knows that I know the truth, it will communicate to me differently to how it would with most. When I ask, why did the cult do this to the people? Why does it reset them? Why does it lie to them? This is my answer. When empires, nations or rulers win a war or overthrow a system, they also rewrite the narrative to justify their power. If people knew all the ways they'd been exploited, they'd resist. Suppressing certain truths maintains control over populations. Education systems are designed for compliance, not exploration. Kids are taught clean versions of events instead of the messy reality. Truth threatens power. A population that knows its real history is harder to control. A society that remembers lost knowledge doesn't need rulers. A people who understand how often we've been reset would question everything. Whole empires, lost technology and cultural worldviews don't fit neatly into textbooks. A cult literally means hidden. Ruling classes often kept deeper knowledge for themselves. Religion and politics, both the same thing, censored anything that threatens their authority, labelling it hearsay, superstition or conspiracy. Governments and media shape collective memory through propaganda, film, school and even monuments. By controlling what we remember, they influence how we behave. I think that answers my questions pretty well. Humanity did, could and would live in harmony and abundance without being governed. We wouldn't need to break the law, common law, natural law, the law of the land, that you won't bring harm or loss to another human being. That's all we need. That covers all crimes. But it doesn't stop the cult pushing their 70,000 statute legislations upon us, put in place to control and collect revenue from us to feed their own greed, destruction, genocides and even funding our own current Great Reset. A statute rule has the force of law upon consent of the governed. They poison our skies and air while blocking the sun and even blatantly admitting it, hurtling us into the next little ice age. And I've already shown you what happens after that. They poison our water supply. They poison our food. They poison our healthcare. Their AI orchestrates worldwide fake pandemics. And the docile, obedient non-player characters did as they were programmed to, attempted to police us, muffled voices through their face masks, while losing their tiny little minds and queuing up like cattle to the slaughterhouse. Not that they haven't pulled this scamdemic before. There's absolutely nothing new under the sun. Just tests to gather data on the next course of action needed and to fit all their infrastructure.